is Kingdom Hospital.
There are lots of vacancies.
Coming ABC Wednesday, March 3rd.
From the very beginning of Operation Ivy Blizzard, Lieutenant Colonel Buck James had the ability to watch his battalion's every move.
1-8's got some guys on the other side of phase line red.
But it still comes down to sending young men into harm's way.
The moment of high anxiety for me is probably our initial penetration into the heart of our objective areas.
Dismount. Drop ramp.
It's tough. But you gotta let it go. You gotta let them go do the job.
The raid on Samara continued after sunrise, with soldiers of the Stryker Brigade going house to house, looking for people Colonel James describes as thugs. It is a violent process.
You don't start a fight to make friends.
You have to compensate them. Go ahead and fall back to your vehicle.
But in an attempt to lessen resentment, a new Army policy pays cash for broken doors or other damage.
Shotgun!
More often than not, only women and children greeted the heavily armed soldiers, and they were, understandably, terrified. The initial intelligence was spotty. Few of the houses turned out to contain what the Army calls high-value targets, but slowly, bits of additional information came in from neighbors as they talked to the brigade's own military intelligence officers, another unique asset. In the days prior to the start of Operation Ivy Blizzard, the Stryker Brigade's full capability was put into play. Satellite photographs gave soldiers in every Stryker a detailed look at any street or building. Secret listening posts were set up at night. Unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, were launched to look for potential enemy attacks. The Stryker Brigade has its own scouts. Hours before the raid, they sent the 114 Cavalry into Samara to map out the territory.
We really want to just get a feel of the grasp of the town, see what we can do here. The town's supposed to be really aggressive. I mean, RPG, IED.
This is one of the most dangerous things the CAV does. This is a reconnaissance mission where they are on foot in the city of Samara looking for some specific houses.
My name's Dave.
Huh? Dave? Despite the smiles, it's a tense time. The soldiers are exposed to potential rocket-propelled grenade attacks or small arms fire.
That smoke, that's the Stryker.
Samara already proved dangerous earlier this day when the first Stryker lost in combat was destroyed by a huge roadside bomb. Although the Stryker was a total loss, the 6 soldiers inside survived. The Army says that shows they are the right vehicle for this kind of war. But not everyone agrees. More than any other aspect of the new brigade, these vehicles have been roundly criticized from many corners. The Government Accounting Office and the RAND Corporation say at 20-plus tons, they're too heavy to be easily transported. Other critics dismiss them as nothing more than a rubber-tired tank. A description Lieutenant Colonel Gordon Flowers resents.
This was never designed to be a tank. This is an infantry carrier that is designed to carry 9-man squads on the battlefield to assault positions with all their assault equipment.
It carries the infantry to the fight. And the most lethal thing in a Stryker is a squad in back of it.
As the day wore on, Samara was getting a close-up look at that lethality. Over 200 Strykers were fanned out across the city, with thousands of soldiers making their way through alleys and hallways.
It ultimately comes down to 4-man fire teams, led by a young sergeant or specialist who's probably anywhere from 19 to 20 years old, who are going to be going through the fatal funnel in these doorways, clearing these objectives.
The Strykers moved quietly through the city streets, but they're not nearly as effective off-road as tracked vehicles like tanks and Bradleys. Their tires can be shredded by sharp rocks, and they became stuck in the mud numerous times in the fields around Samara. Tests showed the Stryker's armor was ineffective against certain types of rocket-propelled grenades, a popular weapon in Iraq. So just before they entered Iraq, the Army installed a stopgap measure called slat armor. This is, in theory at least, designed to catch an RPG before it detonates. The slat armor adds 2 more tons to every vehicle, which are already top-heavy. In their first few weeks in Iraq, 3 Strykers flipped over into canals, causing the deaths of 3 soldiers. But the people who are actually using the Strykers, the soldiers who are riding them into combat,
continue to push that through Wars 4 and Arrowhead.
And the officers who are managing the battle from these high-tech command vehicles, they are true believers.
The ability of these things to maneuver quickly and quietly and get to where they need to be is just amazing.
And ultimately, they say, the Strykers are simply a better, safer way to bring a lot of infantry soldiers to the fight, in a place where soldiers in unprotected Humvees and trucks are being killed almost daily.
You know, I've got a 10-year-old son and 5-year-old daughter back home. I feel pretty comfortable with my equipment. I'm going to be able to go do my task before me and come back home safely.
But the main thing that distinguishes the Stryker from any other vehicle is its communication system.
We got our trolley companies moving up on this one route here.
A few miles from Samara, Major Chuck Hodges watches the assault on a 6-inch computer screen. The blue dots are his Strykers.
And then here's 520 coming in. So the battalion, we got 123 infantry in the south, and then 520 coming in the north.
Soldiers in the field see the same picture. As his men get inside the city, Hodges views their progress on a satellite photo. The squares are the buildings of Samara.
Roger, we begin to breach facility 114, over.
Okay, so they're in.
The enemy locations can also be placed on the screen. The Army calls that situational awareness. It is, in war, the ultimate weapon. But all that information is useless without the ability to act on it quickly, which is why the Stryker Brigade instituted its most dramatic change yet.